Hi guys, it's pretty terrible if Nigel Farage can't answer a question on Nigel Farage friendly TalkTV, but that's exactly what happened when he sat down with the concrete farmer to discuss immigration. Now, the leader of Reform was told that the small boats keep on coming and was asked what he would do to stop them. Farage then started talking about Australia and the outrage over human rights abuses, which, for some strange reason, he found funny. But listen carefully and tell me if you can hear an actual answer to the question.
One on France from Steve in Nottingham. He says, question for Nigel, what would he do about France when the small boats are turned back? No doubt the French would throw their dummy out the pram and close their borders or put heavy restrictions on. Richard Tyson, I've talked about this quite a lot, turning the boats back physically. I mean, have you actually got a plan?
Well, there is Unclear law of the sea that would absolutely allow us to do that. Of course, there'd be a huge diplomatic incident.
Yeah.
Of that, there is no doubt. There is no doubt at all. Just like when Tony Abbott, the Australian Prime Minister, towed the boats back to Indonesia. I mean, the hue and cry.
Yes.
Oh, the screams from our Foreign Office and the EU and the UN and everybody. Yeah. Look, the current course we're on is failing. And we can sit and criticise the French, who've already had £800 million. And from Reeves's statement last week, I can see there's another couple of £100 million going their way. Even if the French do their stuff and start dragging them out of the water, those boats are launching from Dunkirk down to Burke. It's 100 miles of French beach. We will never stop the boats from leaving France. They need 10,000 soldiers on the beaches to stop every boat from going. The reason they're coming isn't the French's fault. The reason they're coming, it's our fault. It's about time we faced up to that.
This is very strange. So obviously he didn't answer the question. What would you do to stop the boats? Well, it's not the French's fault. It's our fault. Now, what does he mean by that? How can Britain stop the boats? He even pointed out here, even if you had 10,000 police officers or military on the beach, you wouldn't be able to stop them. It's 100 miles of coast, so you can't stop them. So it has to be done in Britain. So what is he talking about? Obviously, he didn't answer the question because he doesn't actually have an answer to this question. But it is telling how the rhetoric has changed. Now, I want to respond to three things that he mentioned. First of all, he talked about the law of the sea. That's about saving people who are already in the water. There's an obligation on ships in the sea to provide support to people who are in danger. He also talked about Australia, but that's a completely different situation. So it doesn't make sense to compare Britain and France and Australia and Indonesia. Completely different scenarios for a whole range of reasons. But what is Nigel Farage's plan? Because he hasn't really pointed out what his plan is. Now, he has mentioned before, well, what we need to do is we need to stop benefits going to asylum seekers. But asylum seekers can't claim benefits. He's saying that he and others within Reform has said, well, the benefit system is a pull factor. But if asylum seekers can't claim benefits, how is it a pull factor? Most of the people crossing the channel, when they claim asylum, are granted asylum. They move on to refugee status and then eventually, in many cases, they end up working as normal people. They contribute to society. What's the problem with that? The majority, about 70%, according to the Home Office itself. And that was even when the Conservatives were in charge. So what is Nigel Farage's plan to stop the boats? He seems to have thrown in the towel, according to the far right, when it comes to stopping them leaving France. There are some people within Reform, extreme elements within Reform, who say we need to use the Navy to push these boats back. We need to damage the boats. We need to... An ex-member of Reform talking about just letting people drown in the sea. So Farage is saying, well, we need to abandon that approach and we need to deal with something on land. But once again, if it's about stopping asylum seekers from claiming benefits, they can't. Is it about punishing them? Is it about putting them in jail? Is it about deporting them? Well, Nigel Farage has also in other interviews said, well, we've sort of abandoned this idea of mass deportation because it's not practical. It's not feasible. So what is Nigel Farage's plan to stop the boats? Is it something radical like creating safe routes, I highly doubt it. That would actually stop the boats, because then people could claim, make an asylum claim in France. The UK sets up a processing centre there. The French have already said, yeah, we would be willing to allow the UK to do this. So maybe this is what Nigel Farage is suggesting, but I highly doubt that. Does anyone actually know what Nigel Farage's position is? What is the official position of Reform UK? Because you're hearing all sorts of different scenarios being presented by members of Reform, but there isn't one single message. And I think this is pretty important, because Nigel Farage has built his entire career on the back of anti-immigration rhetoric. So I think voters deserve to know, what is Nigel Farage's plan when it comes to the small boats? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.